Good evening, everyone. Nice to see you all. We have already opened the meeting, so we are going to begin this evening by standing for the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll remain standing for a moment of silence in remembrance of Judge Ron Corey, former council person and the municipal judge for many years. The Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. It's a lot of charges since nation pulling about municipal authority to the justice. Thank you. Please be seated. We're going to begin this evening with the second reading of ordinance number 15-2024. This is an ordinance renaming the Lambertville Nature Trail as the Russ Lambert Nature Trail. Before I open this up to the public for comment, I'd like to invite Russell Lambert up to speak and maybe say a few words. You could step up to the podium, please, Russell. Welcome.
I'm not mentally prepared, but I'm going to try my best. I just wanted to say I just wanted to say thank you guys so much thank you to the community for allowing this wonderful opportunity for both me and my mom. We need a lot. And I appreciate all the wonderful support both neighbors and friends have done for me. And for that, both me and my mom can only just say thank you and we appreciate everything we've done for you and appreciate everything that you guys have done for me. For that, we thank you. So, thank you.
Thank you. Martha, you want to have anything you'd like to say?
You think that, Martha? I'm Martha Shea, Russ's sister. Well, many people know me as Anne Martha. And like Russ and Ben, I want to thank you all for the support and comfort that you've given us these past months. Russ would be very happy. He would probably be, he was humble and he'd be a little embarrassed, but he'd also be very pleased. And it's a perfect way to remember him. Thank you.
And if Mary Ann Borges, the chair, person of the Parks and Rec Commission, would like to step up.
Hi, I just wanted to say that Russ was a really important member of Parks and Rec, was a really important member of our team, and we want to wait to remember him and honor him, and so we still there. So thank you for accepting this recommendation.
And does the council president have anything to say before I turn it over to the public?
I second everything that my son and my sister-in-law said. And I really am so grateful to Mary Ann and the rest of Parks and Recreation Commission for honoring Russ this way. I hope you have a park steward for the porta potty and right. These months have been difficult, but it's made so much easier by the people in this community. It's unbelievable, and we're just very honored that Russ is being remembered in this way. It's what he would have wanted. Thank you.
Now I'll open this ordinance up, second reading, public hearing ordinance up for public comment. There are people who wish to make a public comment in regards specifically to this ordinance. I would ask you to step to the microphone. You have 3 minutes of uninterrupted time. Right, seeing no one in the room, is there anyone online who would like to speak to this ordinance?
Oh, hands up.
I forgot to note that Councilman Stegman is joining us via Zoom this evening, so he is here. We just can't see him. May I have a motion to close the public comment period for ordinance number 15-2024?
So moved.
Second. All right, let's do a voice vote, please. To adopt ordinance number 15-2024.
Councilwoman Kaminsky,
Yes, to Russell.
Councilman Lai,
Yes.
Councilman Stegman,
Yes,
the President Lambert,
Yes.
Mayor Noel.
Yes. Thank you.
Now to adopt, Mayor.
That was,
To close the public hearing, I have to adopt.
oh gosh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do a roll call on the public, closing the public hearing.
Yeah, right.
Oh, my goodness, I'm sorry. It's a little early in the game for me to be, the night to get track. At this time, I would enter a motion to adopt ordinance number 15-2024.
So moved.
Second. All right, we'll have a roll call on this, please.
Councilwoman Kaminsky.
Most definitely, yes.
Councilman Lai.
Yes.
Councilman Stegman,
absolutely.
Council President Lambert,
Yes, please.
Mayor Noel.
Yes. Thank you. Let's just sit for a few seconds. Right. This is the time when I will open the meeting up for public participation. As we always remind people, unless you have mobility issues, we ask you to step to the microphone, please state your name and your address. You have 3 minutes of uninterrupted time to make your comments or ask your questions. Lindsay will let you know when you've got 30 seconds left. I do ask that everybody, if this is a good moment to silence your cell phones, and if you feel as though you want to talk, please step out of the room. If you want to be sure that we hear everybody's comments and questions. So keeping that in mind, if there's somebody in the room who would like to offer public comment, we may do at this time.
Jeff Tittle, 33 Wilson Street, Riverville, and I just want to say that I appreciate the effort to the trail and bench and everything else after Russ. It really was dedicated to this community. I'm really sorry to be fishing with them, but then again, I don't like standing in cold water. I'm here because I wanted to talk about the Academyville development plan, or whatever you want to call it. I was concerned at the meeting a couple of weeks ago with some residents about sort of there's a knowledge that DEP is in charge of cleanups of landfills or oversight of contaminated sites. It's not the truth anymore. In 2009, it was privatized, and in 2012, it was expanded. And how it works is that the site is under the jurisdiction of the property owner, who hires a licensed site remediation professional, who then does the soil sampling and the testing, comes up with a work plan, oversees the work plan, and then certifies the work plan as being complete. Or, there's also a lot of issues with DEP on alternative cleanup methods. And the reason I'm saying that is that what we're doing is we're trusting the cleanup of the site to Merrick Wilson, who many people in this community do not trust. And the concern I have, and I was a vocal opponent of the law at the time, that it was the box designing the hen house, building the hen house, and certifying it safe. In many towns that I've worked in over the years, I've asked them to hire their own professionals to oversee the work going on there and the plans, because no public comment on the cleanup plans or anything else. And I've been up on the site, and I've tried to stay along the edges. And my concern is you don't really see where the landfill ends and the woods begin. It's older, but there's dumping up there. From talking to neighbors up in that area, there's been continuing dumping since the landfill closed. If you walk around the edge of the property, there are areas in the property you can see drums, a couple of them buried, a couple of them sitting on the surface. There are piles of debris, and the area around the school is a big mess. And there's a lot of stuff there. You see electric motors and other things, PVC pipe. There's also some areas on the site, and I don't know if it's because there were ball fields or others where there's very little vegetation. And I was the person who actually uncovered the Virgin Superfund site many years ago. And one of the things that was a tell was that weeds weren't growing. And so I really think there's a bigger concern up there than we currently know. And I just wanted to leave it at that, because I'm really concerned that if we're gonna be building up there, whatever's gonna happen can have a big impact down below or on that people who may end up living there. And my other point is, we were talking about payment in lieu of taxes, potentially for the site. And, when you're getting 4-to-1 market portable, and you're selling units between 900,000 or more, you're gonna probably make about 400,000 units. There's not a need for any kind of additional subsidy, especially something like pilots, money from this. And then my last point, I know I'm gonna go over, because it's on the agenda tonight. Fluston Farm would make a wonderful project of Massachusetts on taking an old farm area and building within the existing structures. And I'm not talking about the historic house, but the other buildings, vertical housing, and it's something we should look at. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask, once again, if we could not clap. I just think that sometimes as a courtesy to people who may not share, who may have different viewpoints, that could sometimes, be, not appreciated. And before we go on, I'm gonna ask, are there any, response from the council, on the first speaker?
Yeah, only other than, Jeff was good enough to take me on a little bit of a tour. I got a couple of ticks, but they didn't bite me, but there's a lot of, I have to, there is a lot of dumping there that I was very, surprised at, a lot of buried drum that we saw, and, it's a very, very complicated piece of property. It was a great tour, really helped in my understanding of it and my increased, concern about, going ahead.
Yes.
Hi, Beth O'Brien, Hugh Hancock. I just want to piggyback on what Jeff was just talking about, the possibility of using a portion of the Clausen Farm for affordable housing. Today I had a conversation with Habitat for Humanity in out in Raritan. They have a history with Lambertville. They renovated the American Legion building after Aya, so they're familiar with our town. And on a quick glance, the young lady said, actually her engineer took a quick glance, and he said, I think we could get 4 to 5 duplexes up there, family duplexes. And we'd be able to fit in the historic architectural theme of Lambertville. We would be very cognizant of the history of the town, and talked about the stormwater mitigation and actually alleviating any kind of storm impact when they do their building. And so I would just ask them, how do we engage if it's a possibility? So I'm asking you if it could be a possibility. Someone from Habitat for Humanity would like to come and have a meeting, or come to our next city council meeting to begin a conversation.
Councilors and comments?
Well, yeah, I'm familiar with Habitat. They've done some great work in our community. My good friend Helen up the street has a Habitat home. There's a Habitat home up on the hill, and you guys are, and you guys had a great relationship with them. They're a great organization. I would welcome them coming back.
Yeah, I echo Karen's comments on that. I think they're a great organization. I've worked with them as well. I think it's a really interesting events.
Okay, thank you.
I too would welcome Habitat coming in and taking a look at the property. Prior to my taking office, Councilman Stegman and I had some conversations with the former mayor and Habitat people. They weren't real optimistic, but it sounds like maybe attitudes have shifted, and that's a good thing. And I'm very familiar with their work, as I actually worked on the York Street house. And I have photographic evidence that I was holding a drill.
Great.
It was really nice. It was really nice. Yeah, right, yeah.
Be able to fulfill the family requirement,
Yeah.
which we're so desperately looking for. So we just got to
Thank
throw
you.
that out there. Thank you.
Yes.
Councilman Steinman would like
Oh,
to say it?
sure, sorry.
Yes, I would just like to add that during that time period that Ben was speaking of, is I actually met with Habitat and went to several locations. Unfortunately, at that time, Habitat was not set up to do rental buildings or rental units. I don't know if that's changed over the years, but it is our deficiency is not in homes. As far as fair share is concerned, our deficiency is in affordable rental apartments. So unless Habitat has changed their stance, then working with Habitat will not fulfill our requirement of fair share housing units.
Yeah, I think that it would be a great opportunity, though, that we should welcome them back, because we will have additional units to provide, even though there is a rental component to our obligation, that we will also be looking at, for sale housing as well. And so I think in the future, and in the near future, that it could become relevant. So I think that they would be, again.
Oh, I don't disagree. That's why I said what I said, that at that time, they might have altered their responsibilities, that's all.
And I think, regardless if it's rentals or homes, I think the court would be really happy with the direction and, the opportunity for more affordable housing in Lambertville, so.
Please. Sean Ellis, 21 Belvedere Avenue. I want to reiterate, I think, the theme here that this site where the Lambertville High School site is not viable, it's dangerous, and it presents so many risks to our community, and it's unnecessary because we have other viable options, and one option being, again, I want to say here, Habitat, great idea. It gets us away from this, kind of corporate deal with the devil kind of thing. But I think that just amongst the council, the lack of certainty as to what Habitat could or couldn't provide is something that I think everybody feels. We feel like it's complex. There's these bonus points. There's all these things. We have, certain requirements, and it's never been posted. It's never been. It's just people saying stuff, right? And so we need information. We need a guide. We have rental units that people have been wanting to turn into affordable rentals. We don't have to do any development. It's in the aesthetic of Lambertville because they already exist. ADUs, we need to have a guide for people to get good information, to take up less time of city officials and staff, and essentially have an idea of what the process entails. I know that, Mayor, you said that is something that should be looked into. You didn't think it was, would yield much, but I think maybe that's something for this commission to explore, Affordable Housing Commission, that you're also interested in pursuing. And so, if we have to hire experts to vet the information, there's an Affordable Housing Trust Fund that's meant for that very purpose. So that's number one. Number two, I had sent you an email, and Clausen you indicated that you wanted that to be all open space, with the exception of the market. What happens to the buildings, the cabin that's there, if that becomes open space? It's been empty for 4 years now. We're talking about affordable housing. I think a lot of people are potentially interested in that. And I also, heard that other people have reached out, other landlords in town, other property owners in town, and have struggled to get any traction, even though they've wanted to put
affordable housing on their properties. They wanted to convert their rentals. They've gotten misinformation, they've gotten resistance from the city, they've gotten this never followed up on. And so why? That's, thank you.
Council members have any remarks or questions?
I think your point about information, Sean, is really good. If there are people in town that want to convert and make an accessory unit for affordable housing, one, I think it's a much better location because it's in the town area, it's very walkable, it's part of the community. I think the government has an obligation to provide that information. And, if we can work on the packet or something like that for people to be able to determine, hey, I might have this garage that I want to turn into an accessory unit. I think that's a really good idea. I know another resident brought up the idea of the commission, and I've been doing a lot of thinking about that as well. And, I think that it's a really good idea because maybe this commission could, continue to explore new places for affordable housing. We've been talking about what's going to happen in a year or a year and a half to 2 years with the Pinkles property. So by having a commission, makes sense. We have other commissions with other things in town. So I think that's an idea worth exploring.
Yeah, I agree with Councilman Clyde, and I support what you stated. I'd really like the idea if we could kind of sprinkle affordable housing throughout the community. That really kind of fits the whole essence of what it's supposed to be, right? Clausen property, I kind of go back and forth. I understand where you're coming from, but that's A, segregated, right? And B, this is like the elephant in the room for me, but we don't know, I don't know what that does to our budget if we're counting on those monies coming in, like $500,000, if we're getting that or not. I don't know, but those are worth exploring. But I think we should be exploring things.
Yeah, I also think that, Sean, to your first point, which I might get hung up on process, I think we're long overdue to understand what our housing element and fair share plan is. Walking through the numbers, I've never really seen the add them up. And because it shifts around what our obligation is, how we put it together. I mean, and we need a little bit of a teach-in on it, and I know that I do, because I get, and I'm supposed to know, get confused on it. And then where are we going from here year to year, because the state has some new regulations as well that I'm pretty, kind of concerned about. So I agree with that wholeheartedly. And I think if we were going to do something with setting up a community, commission, that I'd love to be able to have like a point people here to be able to, work together and take it in and really have a discussion. Well, maybe that'll work, maybe that won't, but to be able to have a governmental committee as well, so we can kind of do some collaborative.
I would just say that I met with Elaine Clisham this past week, and I think that we'd like to plan kind of an affordable housing teaching session in early September. We talked about a little bit about doing potentially over the summer, but I think just because of summer schedules, it's probably not the right time. But I'll get with her and we'll plan something for the first or second week of September where we can have an open meeting for the public. The last time we did this was it was just a couple of weeks or a couple of months after I was sworn in. It was unfortunately, it was done virtually. So, it's a big difference between doing things virtually and doing them in the room. So we'll plan on something in early September and I'll get back to everybody on that. Thank you. Councilman Stegman.
Yes, that sounds like a good idea, to get someone in who can actually explain the ins and outs of it for us. And I also, agree with what the other council members have said. So I think we should start taking a deep dive into what would work and what would be acceptable at this point.
Thank you. Also, just to remind people that on the city webpage, we do have an affordable housing page that's under the resident tab. It has all of our reporting requirements, it has all of the income requirements, it has everything from the plan to the court settlements, all of it's right there. So it's worth taking a look at. Some of it is difficult to digest, but if you look at it and you have a question, you should feel free to call me, and if I don't know the answer, I will get it for you.
Thank you. What happens to the cabin if you make it open space?
I'm not,
I asked that question in my thing, you just
right.
aren't answering it. That's it, right? Okay, thank you.
We have a next person.
Could we, just, going back to, the final question that Sean had, not that you asked you about the status of the cabin. Right. We can answer that question, I think, the status of the cabin, it's still staying on the property, there's no one is buying it or selling it at this time, but. I believe that the cabin is in the exclusion zone of the property, so it is not part of, the receipt of Green Acres money.
My understanding,
As I understand it, so I just felt like we really should want to answer that question,
Well,
and that was what, and
the
so.
mayor said he wanted to make it all open space in an email to me. That's what I want clarification on.
We do not go back and forth from this. If you want to follow up.
I just need clarification for my question.
Please, next speaker.
Wow. I think I at least answered it. I wanted to at least answer Sean's question. That was that he asked at the podium. So I hope that answers.
I asked it multiple times in email and now, and I'm
Fine,
just,
I
yeah,
think
thank you.
my answer is, I
Thank
think, and if we want to talk some more, feel free to do so.
Judy Gleason, 86 North Union Street. Also talking about the redevelopment plan, also talking about what we have on the table, and also talking about where we are now. It seems as though, and particularly in the last few minutes, it seemed obvious that there seems to be a certain commitment among some that this idea of the 200 spots up on the old high school site is the plan, and all the other discussions are just sort of random things that people are talking about. I'm asking, please, the council has it within its power to say, we will look at all the other things that people are doing, not we'll see about a council, and maybe because no one has told us more than you all have, and I understand this. You're on a deadline, you don't have a lot of time, you want to move on it, I respect that, I get that, but don't hold us back. You have an enormous number of people in this town who are doing every possible thing to find options, to find ways to have housing here, housing there, housing. We don't have to do it in 40 units. We don't have to do it in 20 units. We have always been able to put it around town, and it's just sort of hurtful living here to see what seems to be some resistance in trying to do that, because Mr. Mayor, you have made known that you want to see the 200 unit thing go forward. I respect that, but don't let that hold us up to try to find an alternative, because the alternatives will not have the flooding, will not have the trees ripped up in the number there will be, will not have the complete separation from town, will not have all of the kids who can't get to school without this and that and roads and other things. So why not use the free help you have? You have it in meetings here every time now. People are coming, people are doing, people are communicating. So please, please send us the message. Yes, we will work with you. Yes, bring us ideas and we will take them seriously. Yes, we will talk to affordable housing if that makes sense. Yes, we will do it, because right now that's what's going on out here. And the difficulty is it's sort of sporadic for the whole unit of y'all to be embracing that. And we really want to be working with you because you're our people. We put you there. So please help us out. Thank you.
Councilmembers, anybody?
Just,
Please.
I would just say, Judy, you know, if we do have this commission, I think you'd be great on it, to help out. So if we do, I'm gonna be calling you up, so. But said it very well received, and, you know, although this plan has been proposed, I can only speak for myself. I'm more than willing to look at wherever we can put affordable housing. You know, if the plan, does or does not go forward, it doesn't eliminate our need for affordable housing. This is gonna be something we're gonna be dealing with for a while. It's not, you know, we've got a fourth round that's coming out. So whatever approach we take, we can't just be thinking about, you know, complying right now. It's, you know, complying for the next 20 years. So that's why I really do think a commission makes sense, because this problem is not gonna go away. And that's the best way to address it, in my opinion. So thank you.
I agree. I think the commission makes great sense. Judy, you're at least a vice chair. If not, yeah, but anyway, I didn't really mean to take your thunder back, but.
I don't have any thunder. I'm just quiet.
The thing that keeps going through my mind recently is we have so many people that are engaged in this, and that's great. And we have a lot of smart people that live in this community. Smart, committed, dedicated, energetic, accomplished, you know, people who know this stuff. And I think, you know, we have an opportunity. I was reminded of that when I read Philomena Hanks' Lambertville Matters, and she reminisced of the Penn East success. And this is very similar, right? So I would support a commission, and if necessary, participate.
Right, yeah, no, collaboration and consensus, I'm all for it. It would be welcome.
Council, anything? Next, please.
Dave Bird, 255 Brunswick Avenue in Lambertville, as a follow-up to the discussion we've had so far. And I was not able to hear the mayor, who's going to be putting something together in September to tell us about affordable housing. I'll remind everyone that the planner at a very early meeting was going to take that as a task and get some simple document out to explain very clearly what our obligation is today, what your obligation is today, how many we got, how many we're short, all right, and what the deadline is. Because there is a lot of people working on things right now, and I really would encourage that to be done ASAP, so we're all working with the right data. All right, and plan for today, don't plan for tomorrow. You know, yeah, you know what I'm saying, but you know, we don't know what the next number is going to be. Something different, I just wanted to bring this up, resolution number of the 2024 of 111, that is the use of this facility for the movies. Okay, we have a new contract coming. I know there is some consideration of different screens and devices, you know, that, you know, to help in meetings like this. And I think in the contract, you want to make sure that you have the right as a property owner to use the screens or do whatever we need to do for the business of the city. Just a thought.
Council comment?
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I haven't been really involved in it in terms, I think, Council President Lambert has been involved in the audio stuff that we're doing here, and Cindy.
Right.
So maybe the two complement each other. You can speak to it much
Yeah.
better than I.
I haven't been involved lately, but you know, there's just been some things, but I did work with Cindy and Lindsay a while ago, and we have some proposals. Not really, we're working with people, yeah. It's the kind of thing that gets moved off the, you know, to the back burner very easily, so, yeah, we need to step up.
It's a
All of
budget
us.
thing. It's a budget thing.
Yeah, there's the money, but I think, at one point, and I can follow up with him, I believe Scott Elliott sent an email about possible grant opportunities for that, because it would qualify as like an ADA compliance renovations, so, you know, there's probably something, at least for the sound, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think what we have to do, the first thing we have to do is get together the requirements. What are we looking for, specifications?
Right,
And that's kind of where we got to, and then summary.
Yeah.
So, we're
Yeah,
still pulling things.
yeah, we did ask, the various, city services and boards and commissions that use this facility to provide feedback. And, you know, I worked in IT for a long time. Nobody has feedback until you build it, and then everybody hates it, so.
Exactly right.
Yeah, so, you know, I think we have to probably beat the bushes and get something, yeah, in writing.
The Acme Screening Room City, I believe, owns their equipment. They paid for it and they own it. Is that
That is
correct?
correct.
Okay. Next.
Good evening, April Woodall, 45 Delavan. Thank you so much for having this open forum where we can talk. My concern is with the 200 unit redevelopment plan, on top of all the other kind of scary things we've talked about. It occurred to me that if there are going to be 200 units in one area, that's going to be an addition of about 600 people. Our current census, according to the 2022 census, is about 4,100 people. Suddenly adding 600 people to our population is a sudden growth of 15%. It's going to be a 15% strain on our services and utilities. Whereas if we meet our needs for the affordable housing, which as I understand it currently is 28, that's a growth of like 2%, which we can handle. And over time, we can gradually handle the growth of the affordable housing as necessary. I find that the 200 unit is too great a price to pay for getting our 28 that we need. Thank you.
That's true.
Just to clarify one thing, April, the 200 unit would actually give us 40 units. We only need 28, but the 200 would give us 40. So just to clarify that, it would be in excess of what we need on that site. I'm sorry, did anyone else on council want to respond to April? Okay, go ahead.
Daniel Knott, 35 Delegate Street. She kind of said everything, partly what I wanted to say. I moved here from Newtown 14 years ago. So I have a little bit of experience what the development does to a town. Has anybody traveled to Newtown last few years? It's very evident. Let me just say, no matter how much taxes we pull in from these homes, it's not going to cover the cost. There'll be increased cost for all our public services, the roads. We're talking fire department, police department. There's just increased costs that I'm sure so many people have probably considered. But let's just really take a step back from letting this go through because the evidence is out. Thank you very much.
Council? Thank you. Councilman Sigmund, if you have anything to add, just jump in verbally. Don't wait for us to. Okay.
Will do.
Oh, go ahead, Steve.
No, he was just saying he would do. Thank you.
Jim Master, 2027 North Union Street. I know we can only handle one thing at a time, but not far down the road, there's this big development that's gonna occur at the Finkel site. That's gonna be, I don't know how many, but a lot of people, I think. We can't just make a decision about this without having a vision for how we're gonna handle that too. 200 seems like an awful lot. 600 people, that's all they are. Finkel's is gonna be, site is much more manageable because it's not gonna be contributing to the flooding. But it's gonna be a challenge, so I ask you to keep the vision on this. And in the future, when we have to deal with Finkel's. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm really glad you raised it because it boggles the mind. It's gonna be a big undertaking. And it's gonna be, there's a lot of generational change, I call it, that we're gonna witness, and we really need to, I or for like, we really need a couple of year plan, you know, we really have to think now to the future because of these generational changes and these properties becoming available that were never, you know, it was unthinkable before, that there would be Finkel's, or maybe there wouldn't be the lumber, and really do, it's time for us to go back and take a look at our master plan and what we want to see there and know what we want. Because I always say, when people are coming here to build and develop, they have what we want. And that's for us to protect. You know, we need to, you know what we want in our community and think about and take input from residents and kind of vision, you know, where we want to be. Because there's a lot of philosophies out there. I'm not of the philosophy that you build on every inch. I'm on the philosophy of preserving the character and the life, you know, and what we have, protecting what we have, but providing some opportunity for others, but the delicate balance we need, there's a lot to think about in that regard, and I'm really like to float that
I
out there.
appreciate you piggybacking on that. I think Danny's example of what's happened in Newtown is a good example. I used to hang around Newtown in the 70s. It was cute. It's
Newtown, I had to get built bypass.
right.
Right, I mean, yeah.
We don't want to lose the character in this town.
Exactly.
I would just add, in connection with what you're saying, Jim, you know, I think that's another reason why we need to look at our stormwater ordinance and really address that, you know, in line for this, you know, potential development there too. I think we need a really robust, you know, we had the gentleman from the watershed come in, had a lot of really good ideas and, you know, I think we just gotta get ahead of that project. And so as you're saying, when we make this decision, you gotta be thinking about that as well. And I completely agree with you.
You don't have to.
No.
Okay. Yeah, I welcome these comments from both Jim and the council. In my 2023 State of the City speech, I specifically referenced the idea or the concept that we should be having these conversations in public. And I think this is a perfect opportunity for the public to speak to the council about these kinds of things, because I'm ready to have these conversations. And I think it's important that we do. So I think we should absolutely be engaging with property owners and having conversations about what their ideas are, what our ideas are. I said this in 2023. We know the Finkel site, you know, had a ticking clock on it, and I would encourage all of the residents who care about development in this committee in this town to be talking to the council members individually and the council as a whole, because I'm ready to have conversations. Next, please.
Good evening, John Downs, 14 Hancock Street. Many of you I emailed questions. One of the things the last impromptu meeting we had with the mayor, we discussed changes in the city's decision as to where to build these 200 units, and that whole properties were taken off that docket that was put in by the court or submitted to the court. And then the previous mayor and council should make changes. Now, I wasn't there for that, so that would be for me late to the party. But guys, really, I urge the council to look back, make the correct changes, put back in place that whomever is building whatever in town, whether it's the Finkel site, the Clausen site, the high school site, they are required to put in a minimum number of low-income homes. That's the way the rules were originally written, and the city changed that. So if that's on you, now that's on us as the voters. The next time the elections come up, now I get it, it's difficult being what you're being. But from where we're sitting, it's not very good picture of our town. Thank you.
Yeah. Moving on. Anyone else?
I agree with the gentleman whose first name I didn't catch, sorry.
It's John.
John. And I agree with, people that talked about, in my fellow councilwoman, Kaminsky, about preserving the character of the community. That's the reason I ran for this office, okay? Was to stop the development that would have taken place on this site that we're sitting in. I do have reservations about the size of this project. And quite honestly, I don't know if I can vote for something that could cause people to lose their property or even a life. I can't do it. I just don't know. But having said that, I think we do need to have community engagement, active community engagement, organized commission, so that we can move this forward, because we do have a ticking clock. And that's the hard part, okay? We don't have a lot of wiggle room here. We gotta get stuff done. And 10 months, and that's not a long time. So, that's my point.
Hi, Suzanne Davis, 8 Grant Avenue, Neverville. And I just wanted to say that in terms of our future affordable housing neighbors, research has shown that they do much better when their housing is interspersed within the community, that to have them all sort of segregated in one building is not really helpful to them. They need to be integrated in the community. So, yeah, I think having different parts of affordable housing around the town would be the best solution.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that the planners, perhaps Councilwoman Kaminsky or other planners will agree to that as well. I will say that in regards to the amendments to this plan, they were supported by Fair Share Housing, who, as I said, I think before, has taken a more pragmatic approach to making sure that units, affordable housing is actually built, right? There's not always, we don't always get exactly what's we want or what's probably best. But you know, in our conversations with the judge and Fair Share Housing, you know, this was something that they were fine with. And whether or not we're fine with it as individuals is another matter. But it's not ultimately, you know, this is a court matter. This is something that's part of our settlement agreement. And the powers that be that are above kind of our pay grade say that it's okay, and that this is something that can move forward to get something on the books. Then that's that. So I just wanted to point that out. We may think that, and I agree. I would love to see greater diversity in our neighborhoods and throughout the city. But you know, these are challenges to try and affect these changes. Right. So I don't want to undersell the importance of it, but at the same time, you know, be pragmatic and realistic. It's not always possible. Please.
Jeff Klein, 22,000 South Union Street. When I get all my thoughts together here, like, I think the council and the mayor and everyone involved, and us ultimately, have to make a decision. Are we doing this for the money of the income of the taxing for that whole area? And for a couple of people to make big bucks on it? Or are we doing it for the affordable housing and for the town in general? Now, if we're doing it for the affordable housing, then I think that the committee that you want to get together to, nobody really understands. Most of the people in town don't really understand how many affordable housing units do we have to have? When do we have to have why? What's the process that you go about getting them and get okayed? And if you have to have a delay, which I've seen happen twice before, when that happens, what's the process in which that happens? And how long of a delay can you get? Well, we really have to decide, are we doing this? And Andrew, Mayor, I talked to you at length a couple times on the street. You were very graciously spoke with me. And you said that the primary reason you're doing this, or even considering this whole thing, is for the affordable housing. And to get this done, you just nod your head. And didn't we have that conversation? We did. If we're doing this for affordable housing, we don't want to take that whole area up there, tear it up. Floodwaters become, worse than usual. I don't want to, talk about all the things that everybody knows, all the things that will go wrong if that's up there. But we can't put the town at risk that much. We have to have this committee. We have to make sure that we have options. I don't want a bunch of developers or people from out of town who want to make money on Lambertville, take advantage of me and make my house flood, which floods bad. Any more than it already does. So we have to have that committee. We have to make a decision. And I think you sort of told me you already had made a decision. The primary reason in your brain was to get the affordable housing units. So if that's what it is, let's have this committee and let's do it correctly. Thank you.
Please. Comments from the council or questions?
Well, and just to kind of orient too, I've just been thinking, we do have a document back from the planning board, which found the development to be inconsistent with the master plan and made certain recommendations of. And it really is incumbent upon, the city to do some things to, in response to that, and to talk about those concerns and push back and fight for the town. Like, we really do need to, we've talked about the stormwater system, we talked about scoping the stormwater system. We've got to evaluate our stormwater system ASAP so we can answer these questions. It's like the great unknown we keep talking about, but we're not going to be able to tell anybody whether or not that who wants to tap in the system, even if they're going to build that, anywhere else in town, whether or not our system can handle it. Those are the kind of things we have to look at right away. We really do need our professionals to look at the road network up on the hill. And it's not just because this development, it's been neglected for a long time in terms of drainage, and it would be trapped, and the site is a mess. And we do really have to get a better idea of what the hell is there. And outside of, maybe somebody when they sell it is gonna deal with it. It's really alarming when you see, some stuff that's there and that's in your community, that we really do have to get to work on some of those things now. And that's my thought. JB brought that, we've got it, again, it's our town, we've got to act in our defense.
Anyone else on that one?
Yeah, and also, what Karen just said about how this is our town, even though Fair Share may have signed off on this as affordable because they want us to have affordable, we do know the town better than they do, and I think we know the limitations better. So yes, I completely respect the fact that Fair Share has, signed off on this, but the people here that live here, we know this town better than anybody, and if there's never a chance that we could put these accessory units in town, I think we're the ones who are going to be best to be able to identify. So.
Well, if I could jump in here, the current plan for well, let me take it a step back. I think a lot of things that we planned in the past years about the use of the high school property, I think that we learned a terrible bad lesson with Ida, and I'm really concerned about how many units or how much development is going to be happening if it happens up on that property. The current, and please correct me if I'm wrong, the current approved plan that the city got from Fair Share was for 28 affordable units. That was the plan that was in place before Ida. And since Ida, we have a plan now that has 200 units and 40 fair share units. And the previous plan, I think it capped out at 150. That's where I'm a little foggy on the numbers, or 139 or 140. There are so many unknowns on that hill, but that I think it's too aggressive to think that someone can go up there and yes, provide 40 fair share units in one spot, but at what risk in the long run? What risk? And there's not enough information still about what the risk would be if this went up. And to follow up on what Councilwoman Kaminsky said is the plan was not approved by the planning board and said it wasn't consistent with the master plan. So when we start working on that, we'll see what part can be changed, and even if it can be changed, to put it in successfully into how the master plan reads. So right after Ida and previous administration, my response was, well, we know where the water came from. Let's make sure that water, as we know, and I've said this many times, water does not run upstream. It's the responsibility of people that live higher, or the city, to make sure that people who live higher elevations do what they can do on their property to help slow down the speed of water coming down. And that's more of a challenge now than it was 4 or 5 years ago. It's worse. So, and I know we're working on a revised stormwater management plan, which is great, that will help us at our present condition. And what's going to happen in our future if we don't find a way to satisfy fair share housing in a place that is much safer for not only the project where it's being built, but down in the flat part of town. And that's just so important to the future of the city. So if there is going to be a safe future, we're starting to work on it now, which is great. But I have said for several years that the way to do it is to start scoping the system, to get a handle before it becomes a problem, and rectify the problem. I mentioned that I commended the mayor on getting involved in this since Ida, and hands-on involved. And the low-hanging fruit fell apart during Ida, and we continue to find sections of the system that have already fallen apart. So until we get a handle on how the existing system is going to work at its present capacity, and then make decisions on how aggressively we want to build on parts of the city and not make it worse. So, it's a challenge, but there are so many unknowns here. It's almost paralyzing. So that's pretty much my overview at this point.
Just a couple of points. So, when we talk about the landfill, I just want to point out that as long as that property is not developed, that landfill will be an unknown to Lambertville, obviously, right? So I think that's a point worth mentioning, that whatever's up there is going to stay up there as long as that site is not developed, as long as something is not dealt with in terms of looking at it, and as long as responsibility is not taken by the property owner, right? So that this site can stay like this, and who, we don't know what it is, right? I'm the first one to admit, I have no idea. I don't go up there, I haven't walked along the property, it's not my property to walk into. So, unless there is some kind of development, we have no idea. The only way that that site will be remediated is if there's some kind of development there. Whatever you think about the thought of development, that's a fact, that's just a simple fact. The only other couple of things I would point out is that, and I'm not an engineer, and I don't know, do we have any engineers in the room? So in terms of stormwater management, I don't want to go out on too much of a limb here, but during Ida, and in subsequent storms, I've seen the runoff that comes off that hill without any, there is no stormwater management on that hill at all right now. So we have people in the room who can attest, and I have personally seen water come rushing down Washington Street in moderate rains and leaving trails of debris and all kinds of things. So I would just make another point here that as the state is about to adopt very strict laws in terms of stormwater management, that stormwater management with some kind of development on that site is going to be managed for the first time ever, right? So I get that there are trees up there, and there are rocks, and there's soil, and there's pervious surface, but for any, and I'm not talking about 200 units, but any kind of development that goes up there is going to be required to manage stormwater in a way that it just never happened. So I just want to make those 2 points. And in terms of Councilman Stegman's conversation and points about the master plan consistency, we will be talking about this. I've already had a few conversations with council members about the consistency review, and we will be talking about it. So you can look forward to that conversation. Please go ahead.
Lauren McManus, 9 Washington Street. Thank you, Evan and Steve, for your comments. I was coming up here really to respond to what Andrew, you had said about, we've got these entities above us that are putting pressures, and there's laws, and there's I want to say that I recognize the tough spot that you're in. I recognize that there are these legal matters, there's potential litigation from the developer or the site owner up there if we don't do this. I understand the complexity of that. But I just want to say that, just because there are pressures doesn't mean that you throw your hands in the air and fold. That there's room for negotiation, there's room for asking questions. This is why some kind of committee, whoever it may be, needs to come together and make another plan. And I understand that, the city has changed its tune a number of times with the courts, and it might not look great. But I don't think it matters. Like, what is the difference if we ask one more time? If we actually go there, not saying, we're not gonna do it, this just doesn't work. But if we go there and say, this isn't gonna work because of these very rational reasons, and here is the plan that we think actually is going to work. And maybe we do need an outside consultant to help that committee to really understand what's possible. And maybe anyone in here is saying nothing should get built on that site. To your response about, stormwater management happening up there, I think that our response is to, the nature of this particular plan on that site and just how gigantic and disruptive it is looking like it's going to be. And I think that is the pressure, not of fair share, but of the developer. It's a pressure of financial, issues. And I don't think that that is the thing that should be guiding us. I think that we should really be looking at our values here. Thank you.
Just to comment one thing about what Lauren said. Lauren, you were actually one of the ones who brought up the IDBF commission, and I also appreciate when you emailed us and said you were the first one we're willing to raise your hand to look at these other things too. And I think that's what we need to do. Everyone who's concerned about this, we need you part of the process. And when we go through this, hopefully we can come with a solution to address our needs, because we do have compliance issues, but As you said, we don't just throw our hands up in the air and pull. I mean, you gotta come up with a solution. So thank you.
The idea that we throw up our hands is not a good visual for me. I don't think that that was a hard thing for me to hear personally. I've never thrown up my hands in this job. Yeah, I just wanted to make that response.
Paul, that's 39 4th Street. This is the first time I've heard about the commission, but interestingly, it took me back to some of the first conversations you and I had, Mayor, when you were first elected and taking office. And I was talking to you about a couple of things. One of them is a lot of people in this town that want to do things to help out. Okay, they're smart, they're creative. There's no lack of human resource here. And that's one. The other one was, in my view, I explained to you that the previous administration, when it came to affordable housing, the reason everything failed and so forward was they were one-off projects. They were tactical. There wasn't a strategy in place. And you've heard me talk about strategies when it comes to long-term capital budgets. It also applies to affordable housing. And that is, you come up with options. There is no perfect option. And when you just flow individual, when a person with just one project is floating, it's really easy for the contractors to tear that one down and just wait for the next one to come around. But when you have options and you have to make a decision, all right, you have to do something, which is what's happening now. Okay, you can get people to coalesce around what consensus gives is the best option. And that was the guidance I gave. All right, was having options to look at and having a strategy in place. So I'm glad you said 23 affordable housing was going to be on where you wanted. You wanted to get everybody involved. And here we are in the middle of 24. And now you have that opportunity. Take advantage of it, please.
Hi, Angela Vendetti, 91 Douglas Street. I'm actually here to represent the chamber. I thought you'd want to hear a question about the bridge closure, but that's what I'm trying to ask about. Are we on track? Do we have a estimated time of completion?
Is that your only question?
That's it.
I'm gonna say I've been elsewhere. I'm happy to provide an update. We can provide it via Lambert Matters next week. I'm happy to call you tomorrow, but I don't have that information I can return.
Yeah, I was in the lane shift thing, I was thinking about that myself. I think it is going to, but looking at, I picked up the timeline and it's pretty much tracking that it's gonna take the longest amount of time and it's happening. They have that, oh, maybe we'll be done by that, and it doesn't really appear to be tracking to that, but we'll should ask them for an update. I saw the bridge is now looking at the Frenchtown Bridge, and then they're looking at the Washington Crossing Bridge, and there's a lot of water.
It's not either we even started, right?
Yeah. Yeah, right.
I'll be in touch tomorrow.
Sandy Hanna, 249 South Franklin Street. It seems like everybody's saying, let's create this commission, or let's do this. Can you not make that a decision tonight? Put it forward and say, yes, we're going to do it, and start putting the elements together? Is that possible?
I'm not gonna do that I'm not gonna propose that during public comment session.
That's something that you can get together.
I'm more than happy to put this on the agenda for our August meeting as a discussion point. I think that I need to think about it a little bit. Certainly, I want to make sure that I confer with Bill about this. I want to make sure that we do it properly. If we are able to do it, we can do it. I also think that it's important for our professional to probably have a meeting before we form a commission or a committee, because that way people will have an understanding of what we'll have a better understanding.
It's all August. We'll be working on it. Sure. Great, thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else in the room? Anyone online? Right?
John Ellen, would you like to go ahead? John, you can go ahead and unmute. John, we'll come back to you. How about Mark? Would you like to go ahead and unmute? Mark, do you want to go ahead?
All right, I'll entertain a motion to close the public comment period, please.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Approval of minutes. Tonight we're looking to adopt the following sets of minutes, May 16, 2024, closed session minutes, May 16, 2024, meeting minutes, May 30th, 2024, special session minutes, June 6th, closed session minutes, June 6th as well. I would note that the June 20th council meeting minutes are not ready, and we'll take a look at those in August. And just for those council members who may have looked at the minutes this afternoon, there was one addition. I had a statement that I read into the record on the May 16th meeting. That statement was included in minutes later this afternoon. I had to find a file, so it was a verbatim statement which I included. So unless there are any questions about the minutes, entertain a motion, please.
I do have a question about the closed session, minutes, or was it June sixth?
6, yes.
Yeah, I thought you were gonna make a statement
Bill,
about that.
Bill, I don't know that I don't think that we need to make a statement about those minutes. The June 6 minutes,
June sixth,
closed session.
yeah, so the June sixth closed session meeting minutes, when they're approved tonight, they'll be posted on the website as any other minutes would be. Oftentimes, when there's a closed session, the meeting minutes are posted either in redacted form, or if the entirety of the minutes are not available, then they won't be posted. But because, you know, after that meeting took place, the city became aware that there was no privilege or confidentiality that was required, that they can, they'll be released in a redacted form. They'll be that on the website, I think, correct? Minutes are on the website?
Yes, we put the minutes on the website.
Okay.
Just after they're approved by the government.
Yeah, right. All right, may I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Steve? Councilman Stegman? You with us?
There, he's just muted himself.
Okay. Councilman, did you want to vote on the minutes, please?
I shall.
Thank you.
I say
Shall
yes.
vote. Councilman Howell. Okay, yes, thank you. Minutes are approved. Did everybody get a chance to look at the administrative reports this month?
Yes.
Okay. I just note two things about that. Hotel tax, we took in $18,737 last month. First count took in 22,000. I do not have the candidates numbers because the checks are due on the 20th, so I don't have those for this meeting. May I have a motion to approve the administrative or adopt the administrative reports, please?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Councilman Stegman? You voting tonight? Councilman Stegman? I didn't hear your vote on that.
Yes, I think I just became unmuted. Aye.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay.
resolutions, so we have a consent agenda. The following resolutions on the consent agenda are considered routine and shall be enacted by one motion. If anyone on the council wants to seek a separate discussion of the item, it shall be removed and discussed separately. So I have just two notes to make here. I think resolution number 108-2024. This is an approval to submit a grant application to execute a grant contract for New Jersey DOT for 2025 road jobs. Next year, I propose that we take a little lighter approach to our roads. I think we're in pretty good shape, and I'll talk about roads a little bit later on in the meeting. But we have submitted an application to mill and pave South Union Street here from Ferry Street down to Swan Street. And then there's the block of Swan Street between South Main Street and Wilson Street that's in pretty rough shape. So those will be 2025 jobs, as long as we get the grant and are able to move forward. I just wanted to highlight that because I always love talking about road jobs. And then the second thing I wanted to just note is that resolution number 111-2024. This is a resolution to authorize a negotiation of a contract and a seller and select a vendor for the library-led abatement project. So we've now put this out to bid twice. The city architect, Michael Burns, made 10 calls to certified state contractors to let them know that we were putting this job out to bid, and we got 0 responses. So this is the second go around with trying to find somebody who will handle the job of removing the lead paint from the library. And at this point, this resolution will now allow the city architect to actively go out and try and find a contractor. So I thought that was worth highlighting. Does anybody on the council have any questions about any of the resolutions?
No question.
Okay. What's that?
President.
Okay, I'm gonna make a motion. Who would like a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you. So
Aye.
we have adopted all resolutions on the consent agenda number 104-2024 through 116-2024. The next resolution is resolution 114-2024. I'm sorry, this is
Bill's list, right?
bills list. Okay, sorry about that. Bills list. Everybody got a chance to look at the bills? All right. Have a motion to pay the bills, please. Second. All in favor of paying bills, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Moving on to ordinances first reading. It's now the third time we've had a first reading for this particular thing. It's ordinance number 13-2024. It's an ordinance of the city of Lambertville, county of Hunterdon, state of New Jersey, amending and supplementing the Lambertville City Code 2014, Chapter 11, Fire Prevention, Article 1, Uniform Safety Standards to establish a designated local enforcing agency responsible for the enforcement of the New Jersey Uniform Fire Code, amending ordinance number 7-2024 to correct clerical errors in 11-16. Annual registration of non-life hazard uses commercial property, and 11-3.c false alarm fire protection system penalty letter C. So we reintroduced this ordinance after last month after there was a really just a scrivener's error, and the state contacted us and asked us to make just a couple of other changes in this ordinance, and it related to the fee structure, and I'll just give you an example to really understand. So, for example, the former version of this said 500 feet, but not not more than 999. And the state has requested that we close that one square footage gap. So it's pretty minor, but we need to reintroduce it. So, are there any questions from the council on this? All right, I would like a motion to introduce ordinance number 13-2024. Sound like bunny hop. Ordinance number 13-2024 with public hearing scheduled for August 15, 2024. Someone.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Next is ordinance number 16-2024. This ordinance of the city of Lambertville and county of Hunterdon, New Jersey, going to various capital improvement of and for the city, appropriating $857,000 therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $814,150 in general improvement bonds or notes of the city to finance the same. So I will just talk a little bit about the following projects which are involved, which are part of this ordinance. $72,000 for a police vehicle. This is a regular capital expense on various intervals. Central business district upgrades. We're putting in $75,000 to make the center business district a little nicer. The planters, for example, at the North Union Street parking lot where the trees are, fell apart probably 7 or 8 or 10 years ago. So I'm not sure how we're going to move forward in terms of planning this. But we want to put a little bit of money aside for planters, for beautification, and just make the place look a little bit fresher. So I'll be reporting on that. What it looks like, what we're proposing, and more than happy to talk to the council members about specific ideas they have.
Yeah, I think we need to work with the chamber and with the business community to come up with something that, you know, we do collaborate rather than one-off conversation to kind of come up with a vision, because it's enough money, usually, you know, I think Michael Burns had worked on it before, coming up with a cohesive plan. You know, it is our downtown, you know, it's our, you know, it represents who we are. It does need some sprucing up, but I'd like to do it kind of collaborative, cohesively, meet as a group, you know, ground ideas, come up with something, but then have our professional be able to, you know, have a plan, so we know if we were buying and costing it out.
Sure, I think that's great. We'll reach out to Liz and certainly Angela. It'd be great to have you as part of the conversation, and you know, to be truthful, $75,000 go very far, unfortunately, but we can always just come up with a plan.
Yeah, in a plan, that's one, you know, there's 5-year plan, whatever.
Yeah.
We need to keep an eye on it.
Next, in the ordinances, stormwater management measures, we have $100,000. This is an estimate for debris removal in the creek behind the school. We are in the process of getting approval from the state for that plan. As I've noted in past meetings, I don't think that debris has been cleared out from behind the school probably since Irene. And there's a lot of it back there. So it's, we can probably have our own crew do it, but we have to have dumpsters brought in and the debris has to be properly sent off to the right place. So, and you know, I don't know the cost of that, but this is an amount that's probably realistic in terms of getting that done.
You know, I just have a question in that regard. I know we applied to the county for a grant to buy this camera to scope the stormwater system. I talked to the county today. You know, they think that they will have some decision, you know, August, September, but I don't know if we'll get all the money or get it completely. So I would almost like us to be able to be a little hassle to be able to, we're trying to get the grant for the full amount, that we're able to complete the purchase so we can go ahead through the bond rather than wait.
Well, my first priority is to get the debris cleaned up because that's been a decade, right?
But then perhaps we need more to, you know, be able to supplement or do something or be prepared to purchase this thing and not wait.
Well,
it's also important too. So I didn't know if there was room in it and that to do that or not.
I'd like to introduce this the way it is. As I said before, I would like us to have a conversation in the fall about a stormwater, you know, a bond ordinance that we're going to need for next year. Certainly, you know, even if we got the camera in the next 2 months, in terms of scoping the system, we're heading into the fall and the winter. So, you know, this is really, I think, more practically speaking, a spring matter. So we will be doing it. It's been a priority of mine. And I would like at the beginning of the year to do a bond ordinance specifically for stormwater infrastructure and needs, so that we all understand kind of what we're facing in terms of what our requirements are for the MS for a Tier A permit, et cetera. So we will continue to talk about that. I also, you know, need to talk to the council and beginning conversations with other communities about potentially hiring a stormwater management professional for the city, that can handle all of these things that I'm doing, myself over the last couple of years. Maybe, working with Frenchtown, reached out to, Mayor Meyer about, potentially doing a shared service agreement for what a stormwater management professional would look like, because all of the communities in the area have the same requirements as we do. So, I'm still trying to figure out what that looks like. You know, could we, could Lambertville support full time? I know it's part-time, so I'm trying to work all that out. And my expectation is that by the beginning of the year, as we begin the budgeting process, I'll have a clearer understanding of what I think is appropriate for Lambertville, maybe possible for us to do in terms of working with other communities.
Well, I'd like to include our MUA in that as well.
Of course.
Doing some shared services. With them would be really helpful, because I just think that, we're really into the doing process of the stormwater system, and getting together is obviously a priority since we've been talking about it a lot tonight.
Yeah, and they have people who are trained to use these cameras, so we don't have that person on staff, so there will be collaboration. Moving on, library upgrades, we have $300,000 in here. The elevator, I don't remember how old it is, 40 years old. It's been, I don't want to say dangerous, but it's not been good. It gets stuck between floors. I think a couple of us got trapped in it when we were doing our facilities review. So, the best estimate for a new elevator, we've looked at repairs, and this might be a question of throwing good money after bad because the elevator is so old. We've gotten some estimates on what it would cost to repair the elevator. We're gonna have a little bit more conversation about that, but an elevator for the library could cost $250,000 like that. So we've got $300,000 in here for that. That may also, the bond ordinance is structured in such a way that if we need a little bit more money for the painting, for example, that we could access some funds there. Public Works, we have $300,000 for a new street sweeper. Our current sweeper is more than 20 years old, and while it's still operational, we don't want to wait like the trash trucks till we spend $10, $15, $20,000 every year in repairs for a machine that's 14, 15, 25 years old. So, and this is another place where hopefully we can do some shared services with Stockton, who will, all municipalities now have to have street sweepers at least quarterly. So, we'll put that in. Also in there, tucked in is a little bit of money for a boom mower, which I'm hoping that we'll be able to purchase at auction for much less than the full value of a new boom mower. So stay tuned on that. We had a boom mower arrangement. It took a long time to do a shared service agreement with West Amwell. And so for, I think, the better part of a year, we have access to a boom mower. And then unfortunately, the LNUA sold the vacuum truck, which was our share, to West Amwell. And West Amwell, as gracious as they've been in terms of loaning that to us, their boom mower is not operational at the moment. So, this is something so basic. We need to have this. We need to have the vegetation on Hancock and Washington Street and South Franklin Street. Yes, I'm watching someone shake their head. We need to do that. So that's included in there. Last couple of things, sewer pump at the police station went kaput not that long ago. We did replace it. It was $6,500. So we'd like to pay back the current fund that money. And then we'd also like to buy a small battery power radar sign. So we currently use Go 100 sign. So whenever a resident says, "Oh, I think the people are going too fast on my street," we put a request in from Go 100 to borrow their sign, and we do a traffic study, a 2-week study of speeds and average speeds and all of that. For the cost of $3,500, I feel like we should just have one. So when somebody on Cottage Hill or Conant Hill says, "I think that people are driving too fast up here," we can actually just put the machine up there ourselves and generate a study. People's minds at rest. So that's everything in the bond ordinance that I have at this time. Are there questions from any of the council people about this?
Just going back to the camera, I really do think we should take a look at that, just because there's a lot that is holding up on that piece of equipment, and if we are short with this grant, it just seems kind of short-sighted to not include that in here. I don't know how much money you're talking about, but I would just urge you to maybe take a second look at that.
Well, I'd like to move forward with this ordinance. We don't hear from the county. I don't know when the county's gonna respond, but I think that.
The county said that they would respond, probably they'll make decisions about in August, but so we'll know, probably by September. But I don't know, there's no guarantee that we're gonna get all the funding.
Right.
So that's,
I would still like to move this forward because I think that cleaning up behind the school as soon as possible is a priority for me. We have problems back there, so.
I'm not saying it's not a priority, I completely agree with you, it's long overdue. I just think that, just outline.
Yeah, and if it's possible to include it in this, I'm happy to do that, and I'm happy to introduce a new bond ordinance in August if we want to do that, so that's fine.
as long as we commit to doing it.
Councilwoman, I've committed to doing this months before anybody else started talking about it, so please.
That's why we're pushing. We haven't done it yet, and that's why we're just making the suggestion again. That is all.
Thank you. Motion to introduce ordinance number 16-2024 on first reading with a public hearing scheduled for August 15, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, may I have a roll call vote, please, Cindy?
Councilwoman Kaminsky.
Yes.
Councilman Lloyd.
Yes.
Councilman Stegman.
Yes.
Council
Yes.
President Lambert.
You only vote once, Steve.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, we got it. We're just giving you a hard time.
Oh, okay. Mayor, before we move on, if I might say, if you're looking for someone to spearhead the CBD project, if your schedule doesn't allow you to, then I'd be glad to do that. I have a long history of working, improving the CBD long before I was on any boards or council when I first came to town. And just as a little factoid, I paid for and had installed the first meter sleeve in front of what was Wydell's office. So that's I can hold that above my head. Well, if I work out, I can hold it above my head. But if you're looking for someone to pitch in, I'd be happy to assist.
Thank you, Councilman, and right here and right now, I will say I would be very grateful for you to take this on. I have more than enough to do on my own, and given your history and your commitment to past relationships with the chamber and everything else, I'd be very grateful for you to do that. So
My pleasure.
Yeah, the meter state, super big, super important. So please, yes, happy to talk with you, happy to provide whatever support I can provide you, but by all means, I'd be delighted to have you do this for us. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ordinance number 17-2024. This is an ordinance to amend the Lambertville City Code 2014, Chapter 7, Traffic, adding Section 7-17 Valet Parking. So this is an ordinance that we've been talking about, and thank you very much to the Council President and Councilman Stegman for getting the ball rolling and sticking with this. I hope to introduce this a little earlier in the year, but it's one of those things that just got kind of put aside while we were doing other things. So I'm pleased to be able to introduce this tonight and talk a little bit about it. We've had a lot of conversation about valet parking and valet services here in the town over the last year. Under the Moon has run what I think is a fairly successful operation. There were a lot of concerns and questions from the public and from us. But I think with diligence and care, the program rolled out. We've extended it once or twice, I think. Is that right?
What?
Twice, right. So it seems to be working out really well. And so we, thought that there might be a need to consult more generally and what protections we could, include in an ordinance and what kind of service would be available to the public. So thanks to Bill Opal and Council President and Council Stegman for helping craft this ordinance. And I'm sure the council had a chance to take a look at it. And I don't know if there were any initial questions from anybody.
Yeah, I just thought that we might want to, since it allows for valet parking in the T zone, which I understand all permits then, the hawk and like Bell to do it, but it also then allows somebody to decide that they're gonna start a valet parking business in the arbor. I think we have to fix the definition of like who could do it, because it's like it's a big area, and like somebody could say, oh, I'm gonna have a valet parking business on Jefferson Street. So because the definitions don't really talk about who can run a valet, it doesn't really, it kind of defines a valet parking business. But it doesn't, and it says you can operate it in the R2 zone, but it doesn't say like, oh, you have to be already have a business there, or you have to. So I was just thinking that, because since parking's an issue, I know it's a little outside of the box, but we might want to take a look at that, because it is pretty broad, you know. For that.
Bill, are you looking at the ordinance by any chance? I don't have it, I'm happy to pull it up, but, can you elaborate on what the councilwoman is, do you see any language in there that we could potentially, I don't know if we could change it on the fly, or just hold off until next month, but, I think it's certainly a good point.
It might be another definition or something, because, you know, who can run about, you know. Cause I know we were thinking always, oh, existing businesses wanna run about, hey, but like, you know, there are creative minds that can run about, you know, people now have, there's the app that you can, rent out your driveway, you know, that people do in some places. So it just seems that a natural extension, something is gonna be something that we aren't thinking about here, but it's something that the ordinance doesn't address.
I think it's policy, issue, so I'd rather get some input from the council.
Okay.
than having
But
my-
there's nothing in the language.
Well, the language permits it. So, and the language is open to it. I could start a valet business tomorrow in front of my house.
Could be interpreted that way, so if the council has suggestions about it, language, I think. They should be ones.
Well, can we think about the kinds of businesses that typically use it and limit it to those types of businesses, obviously restaurants, dining establishments, but I don't know.
Well, if I can,
Yeah, go ahead, Steve.
it's hard for me to tell, let's see, wait a second. Can you hear me? Because I just went dark on my screen.
Thank you.
Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah, I had a conversation about this today with Councilwoman Kaminsky, and it is broad. I think in the second whereas, it tells you, maybe we can work on the second whereas, where it lays out what businesses can have that this includes. Restaurants is one, and then there are like a couple of other whereases, but as you go through the rest of it, I think we can be clearer about, you know, who can have, if we want to extend it to R2, and my thinking was there are existing restaurants in in the R2 zones, that we would make it specific to the type of business that people have, that would have the biggest impact on making one park easier, residential parking, by having that option in businesses that are restaurants that are in the R2 zone. So I don't want it to Karen's point, I don't want to give, I don't think the intent was to give the green light to someone to start a side business because they're up there in an R2 zone, and figure out a way to turn it into, you know, an alternate way to make money. So, yeah, I think that, you know, that's a valid concern.
We need to
So,
decide
I
who's
guess-
operating it. that like we're only allowing a restaurant could, of course, then contract with a valet business, so you'd have to be able to write the definition to allow the restaurant to contract with a valet business, because you can't. But are we banning, that someone can't just set up a valet business only in the R2 zone, which I think
Yeah.
is probably, we wouldn't want that.
I
Unless,
think there's probably something we can add to
carve
that.
out for the restaurants that are there, or certainly, but we really, you gotta kind of throw down in terms of, we're not looking for a standalone valet businesses in the arts center.
Okay, if I may, I think I'm just gonna suggest that we not move forward with this. We haven't done a motion and introduce it in August. Is that's rather than kind of work through language now? But would you have a-
Yeah. I'm fine. I think that's a good way to proceed, Mayor.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry, did you want to, Cindy?
No.
Thank you, Councilman. Okay,
I also noticed that there's a K is blank under section K under 7-17.5, so I don't know if that just needs to be removed or there was something.
I keep taking it out, and every time I hit save. it
Yeah.
goes right back in.
Maybe that's why because I didn't see it before, but
I didn't see it before either, but I just saw, I was like,
yeah.
Yeah, I took it out, I've taken it out twice.
Okay, so we haven't made a motion on that, right? So we're good to just say we'll come back to this in August. Ordinance is second reading, ordinance number 06/2024. This is an ordinance to amend stormwater control ordinance. This is not ready it's not ready yet, so I'm gonna ask for a motion to carry the ordinance to August 15th.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 The motion carries. Ordinance number 14/2024. This is an ordinance to amend the revised general ordinances of the city of Lambertville, chapter 16 cannabis, section 16 through 12, 16-12, maximum number of permits. This is an ordinance that amends the cannabis ordinance to remove the C2 from the allowable zones and permit 2 licenses in the C3 zone, specifically north and south.
Yeah,
Planning board review this?
no.
They have to carry it.
We have to carry it.
Yeah, the planning board's going to have to review this because there's a change to the zoning ordinance. Planning board's gonna have to review it for consistency and then the council can adopt it, so.
Got it. Sorry, we missed that one, folks. So,
It's not, I mean,
yeah,
that's
that's fine.
the way
Yep.
meetings fall on schedule,
Yep.
so, it could be referred to the planning board for their next meeting and then should be able to consider it the August meeting.
Do we know when their next meeting is? It's before our meeting, so, yeah.
Well, they meet the beginning of.
Yeah, that's right. They're meeting on the
August.
5th or the 6th, I think. So, all right.
It's seven.
Right here.
Seven.
7. So, all right, everybody understands that? I would ask for a motion to carry this until August 15th, please.
So, yeah, I agree.
Okay, was that it? Making
Yeah,
the motion? Okay,
sure.
so a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you. We'll refer this to the planning board and we'll be able to deal with it at our August 15th meeting. Correspondence, just one thing, JPP&L notice petition filed to approve its deferred balances relating to adjustment of the societal benefit charge clause of its filed tariff. Board appointments, I'd like to make the following nominations to the Green Team. Lindsay Hanch from the Environmental Commission representative, Parks and Rec Commission Representative Marianne Borge, the Shade Tree Commission Representative Art Legier, Resilience Team Representative Liz Peer, the City Clerk Cynthia Eby, Public Works Director Lester Myers, and myself, Eric Witt. Any questions about these nominations?
Do you want to do them together or you doing two separate?
We'll do them together then, if that's okay. Also, to the Lambertville Municipal Utility Authority, Robert Dahl taking the alternate 2 position, Holly Havens moving from the alternate 2 to alternate 1, and Jacqueline Middleton moving from alternate 1 to position. So, any questions? Everybody got Robert Dahl's bio on that, and Okay, I have a motion, please, to approve these appointments. So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
I'm gonna give a couple of just general updates, and then I'm going to ask for specific updates on EV charging grant and landlord registration. Cindy and Lindsay. If you haven't done so, please fill out the Resilience Action Plan survey. Please, 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 please. It's on the city website, the landing page. We're trying to get as many responses by August 1st as possible. It'll be very helpful for our work. Just wanted to review some of the projects that are going either underway or have just finished. We've made repairs to 10 storm inlets in the city over the last couple of days. We replaced the damaged storm sewer pipe on Delavan Street. That just was completed today, I think. That was a great job. They did a really nice job. As probably everybody knows, we have finished repaving Stutterford from Douglas down to Swan, and Swan to a point, Westerly Point, a couple hundred yards down from Stutterford. Also North Franklin from Route 179 to Ely Field. We are waiting to finish the work still to finish repaving Corey Hill Road. It's a very small section of road up on a hill. There's been some conversation between the engineers and the contractors about that job. So as soon as I have the date on that, I will make sure that everybody knows about that. There's a pretty significant punch list of items for these jobs. I spent a lot of time out this week meeting crews and talking to residents. There are a lot of smaller concerns that residents have when these big projects are done, adjacent to their houses. So there's a very active punch list. I'm meeting with the engineers tomorrow. I'll probably do a complete walk of the sites on Monday or Tuesday to make sure that everything is done from signs to every last detail. Grants Alley unfortunately was paved without being milled. And I met with the residents up there this past week and have told the Earl Construction that they need to unfortunately pull out the entire street and redo it again. It's not a very long section, but unfortunately by not milling it, what they did was just put pavement on top of it, and that allows for the water to run into everybody's yards. I was up there taking pictures, and that will be corrected. And as soon as I have the date of that job, I'll let everybody know. That job was not the city job. The city did repave Grants Alley last year, I think, or the year before. And then the water company wanted to lay new water lines there, water services. So they are responsible for paying for that job, and I'm just making sure that it gets done properly. DPW garage is coming along. The addition, the concrete slab has been installed. The wall framing is underway. The rough framing should be complete in the next couple of weeks. Thinking that the job will be done by October. Just a couple of other things that Governor Murphy signed some changes to the Oprah laws recently, and a number of city staff and I will be attending training specifically around kind of those changes to the Oprah laws on August 28th. So I think there's 5 or 6 of them supposed to be important for us to be informed on. And let's see, still waiting to hear back from the state on we're waiting on the permission for cleaning Ely Creek behind the school, and also Princeton Hydro is still working on the design for the gully behind the stormwater gully behind the firehouse. We're hoping to have it signed off by both the city and USDA and RCS by September. And lastly, the CLG ordinance is still under review from the state Historic Preservation Office. So we'll have more information about that, I'll let everybody know. And I wanted to take a couple of minutes to have Cindy and Lindsay talk about a couple of things in City Hall. Let's start with landlord registrations because I think it's a little bit easier. I just want Cindy to give an update on the challenges of landlord registration in Lambertville and kind of our ongoing efforts, which take a lot of time. To make sure that people comply, property owners comply with landlord registration.
A lot of time. It's mostly a lot of Lindsay's time. But we've identified about 251 properties in the city that are rental properties, rental units. I believe we have more, but that we have to start with as our base. As of today, 158 are registered and complete, and they've received their certificates to hang. 17 of them are in process, which means that they have complied with a portion of the requirements, you know, that you have the lead-based paint certification, and you also have the certificate of insurance that's required. In some cases, people have filed things but have not filed their have not paid their fees. Lead-based paint, didn't I say that? No, okay. Anyway, so we have that, and so we have 17 in process. We have one gentleman who owns 10 properties who have actually spoken to, and we're still waiting for him to file. And so far we have 66 that are late, and we've mailed letters to them. In some cases, when we mail a letter, they call and say, listen, it's no longer a rental, so we just take them right off. But these are people that have been unresponsive to our requests. So they will be receiving a letter along with late fees. Now there are 2 late fees, so it's $100, which means now the minimum payment is $350. So it's really an intense thing. Last year, you can do things in SDL in 2 different ways. There's and I'll ask Lindsay in a minute to correct me, but make sure I'm gonna say it's wrong. But there's like an overview that you can go in, and we used that differently last year. This year we moved it to an inside where we can gather more data and we can retain it year from year. Right? Because when you do it the other way, you can't go back in and update and refile for the next year. So we wanted to make it easier for people. But what we've done is made it more difficult for us, because Lindsay probably spends 2 to 3 hours per application. Wow. Yeah. So when you hear complaints about it costing so much, that's why. And then, you get it's filed, but then you have to call because they've messed up something else, or they forgot to upload something, or, they didn't pay their fee yet. So there's a lot of tracking and a lot of correspondence and a lot of calling and emails, and I want to say this has taken up about 80% of your time.
It's a tremendous amount of work, and I thank you for doing it. At the same time, it's hard when we have so many people who language who are not complying kind of willingly or on time. It puts a burden on the city for sure, and we do the best we can. But I think it's important to highlight the things that we work really hard on, and also to point out that these are not, that they don't always happen. Public health and safety is paramount to the reason why we do this. It's not because we want the $250. It's because we want to make sure properties are inspected, that people are living in housing that's safe, and so forth and so on. So.
But it's also the state of New Jersey putting these requirements on us.
Right.
And, we're a small municipality. It's Lindsay and I, this is it. So to handle all of the licensing and it's a heavy load. But we want to do it. We want to do it right, and we're committed to it. So, $250 to register your landlord rental unit, may sound like a lot, but a lot of time goes into it.
Are there any questions from the council for us?
It just concerns me that there's so many landlords that are not responsive, and I'm just wondering what our enforcement mechanism is for this.
So, it's taken us a lot of time to get to this point. A couple months ago, we talked a little bit about it, but my next thing is to I want to give them another chance. So we're going to send another letter. But after that, I've got to start signing complaints in court,
right? Which
I will do. But I wanted to try and get it knocked down a little bit less than 66, so we'll go from there.
Yeah, to your credit, all of the short-term rentals, are they all done?
Yes.
Right, so we've got that down, and I'm very pleased that that ordinance was passed, that we worked hard on it, and that we have a system that holds these property owners accountable for meeting all of the requirements. So that is good news because that's a completely different set of requirements. It's not completely different, but they don't really dovetail. I mean, do they? Well, in terms of
They're not online,
Yeah.
that's a paper system.
you have to do separate databases really for those. So
That's okay, that's easier to manage because
Right.
it's 45 properties, I believe.
Yeah.
That was much easier.
So,
go ahead.
so I guess I'm really concerned that the tool that was supposed to make your lives easier has actually made your life a lot more difficult. And I'm concerned that you're spending so much of your time on this one, particular aspect of all the work that needs to be done. Is there a different way to go about doing this? Are we committed to using SDL? I mean, I have my own thoughts about why we even have it, about the difference.
So part of why this year has been so time consuming is because it's the first time we've transitioned everyone into this more reusable system. So 50% of this time is setup and getting all of the ducks in a row. So it's theoretically, and I am crossing all of my things. Next year, it will be smoother both on our end and also for the property owners who are renting, because the renewal process in this program is very straightforward and very fast.
Okay, good.
So hopeful.
And an additional complexity is that really this is the first year that we've had the lead paint compliance, right? I mean, people were doing it last year, but it was July 1st of this year that it was a requirement. So that did add some time for people because people then had to go out and get certifications or whatever.
I would expect that there's always going to be new stuff that people are required to do. I think the biggest time, labor aspect is, it's transitioning people, which, it always takes a long time to do that. So, okay, thank you.
But, Lindsay's done a bang up job on this, and I do want to just say that, it's really mostly been her, although I've done portions of it. I do like the over.
She's my letter writer.
She is, she's an awesome letter writer.
Question. So with the enforcement, so if you do have to sign a ticket against the municipal court, I'm just looking, is the fine only, is it just a $50 penalty or is there more fines as well?
There's more, that's $50 late fee, and everything is tied back to the general violation, which I think, Bill, and this is from memory, goes from $250 to $2,000 or something per violation.
Yeah, I mean, it's up to the judge
The range,
discretion of.
Right, so I would fill out the paperwork, go to court, and the judge would decide on the violation.
I just would hope that the longer they're out of compliance, the higher that penalty would be, because I think that, resolve the situation faster, so.
Okay, moving on. We received a grant for $75,000 a couple of years ago for an EV charging station. And we bonded, I think, $72,000 to cover the cost of that grant. Lindsay has been working really for the last couple of years trying to sort this out. And I'm going to ask her to give a quick review of it. She's been working very diligently, and I think we're at a point where we should want to bring the public in on kind of where we are, the status of where we are. Councilman Light has very graciously offered to work with Lindsay and some people from the state potentially to flesh out possibly another grant. But I want Lindsay just to give us a quick rundown of how complex this has been and kind of what, beyond the grant, what we're looking at in terms of just a rough estimate to complete the job that we would be responsible for, either through another grant or bonding.
Sure. So we received the grant money for the units themselves of 2 EV chargers. We went ahead and selected the ones that we would want, and we submitted that to the NJDEP. They gave us the thumbs up in 2023. Since then, we've been trying to figure out how to pay for the other aspects that go along with installing EV chargers. And that includes what's called make-ready costs, which come from the utility companies and running wires to power these new high-powered units. as well as installation costs, because somebody has to put this thing on the ground and actually plug it. So in mid-March of this past year, we had reps from Verizon and JCP&L on site at City Hall to assess our site that we chose, which is the back two parking spaces behind City Hall, close to where the ADA compliant glass door is behind our building. We chose that site because of the accessibility from the utilities, not necessarily because of the layout of the parking lot. But when the guys were on site, they identified that there would both need to be Verizon work and JCP&L work in order to prepare the power supply for this charger. We got the quotes back from them about a month later. Verizon said their work would be about $18,500, and JCP&L's estimate came in right below $40,000. So right off the bat, before we even are trying to put a charger in the ground, we have $60,000 in prep work to even get the utilities ready. After we got those quotes back, there's a gentleman I've been working with pretty closely since we got the grant, who's kind of been guiding us through this process. His company provided a quote for the installation, which is a totally separate cost that has to come after the utility prep work is done. And that came in at almost $170,000. Yeah. So we got the grant money to the charger units themselves. That's wonderful. And we're facing down a very large cost to actually get them off the ground. The past month or so, we've started to look at different grant funding opportunities that will cover make-ready costs. Our grant does not, it covers the unit itself. It's very explicit about that. Councilman Lyde offered to reach out to the BPU because we have some contacts there, and perhaps they can help lead us to find an opportunity that might help us get this off the ground. And that's about where we're at. We've talked about other options, we've talked about other locations, and we haven't really found anything else that's more feasible than what we've currently kind of considered.
We actually even looked at the North Union Street lot.
Yep.
Give like a couple sentence on why that didn't work.
Yeah, City Hall is our third choice location. We started out with the Union Street lot because it's in the CBD. We thought it would be great for the chamber. We thought it would be great for having it so central. We can't dig up that lot to bury the utility cables because it used to be the hardware store.
But fire.
And they cannot unearth that ground without doing a lot of remediation. So that was kind of a no-go from the start.
What we also looked at going in from St. John's parking lot, but in order to do that upgrade on the power line, it would have been cost prohibitive too. They said they wouldn't even give us a quote.
Yeah. We considered down by Cherry Street on the park, it floods. We considered the library, it floods. We considered here, it floods. We're, between water and a mountain. We're in there. So, we're kind of stuck. We're looking for creative ideas to try to get this done.
So thank you. I can't tell you how much work this has been. Every time I ask about it, I like leave the room in tears, and I'm not even doing the work. So thank you for all of the work, and we'll see where this goes. I think that I personally think that these kinds of costs are probably, there are other ways that I would prefer that we spend a couple $100,000, even though I think it's really important to be moving forward in the direction that is inevitable. Technology is changing. There are new systems coming out that maybe connect directly to poles and that kind of thing. But this is where we are, and it's been a lot of work. And the major amount of infrastructure on the poles on the southwest corner of North Union and York, and then in front of the the funeral home, and then in front of the city hall, three major, sort of sets of infrastructure would have to be strung on all of these. It's pretty mind-boggling, the infrastructure that's required. So again, thank you, and, keep us abreast of what, if any, progress you make, in terms of additional funding. And we'll talk about it again, I think sometime soon. Announcements, just the convenience center hours, Saturday, August 3rd and 17th from 9 to noon, and Wednesday, August 21st from 3 to 5. Now open up the meeting to the second public participation session, saying rules apply as before, 3 minutes uninterrupted time. Please state your name and address and offer us your comments or questions.
I had a quick follow-up on the landlord registration stuff. You mentioned that some of them have said, oh, that's no longer rented anymore. I was just wondering if there's any follow-up to verify that. They just can kind of get out of the fee by saying it's not a rental unit anymore. And then second, in terms of the short-term rentals, I understand, yeah, that's not in a database anywhere. So I mean, if I wanted to find out if a certain place was listed as a short-term rental, would I just send it up to you guys, asking you is such and such list, was there a short-term rental?
Buttons or call us.
Or all, stuff.
Yeah, maybe call whatever. We have our own independent database. It's not a major one. But as far as the landlord registration goes, we make them submit a letter to us, stating, because if at any other point somebody else says they are renting, I have something that says they aren't, and then we can take other actions.
Another quick question, like it was really useful this week for me to be able to go back and look at the last Zoom meeting online and prep for tonight. Otherwise I would have questions about, cannabis ordinance, but thankfully it's better. I'm wondering is, the planning board meetings are recorded. Is there a way to make those available easily without filing for, more? Whatever the freedom, freedom.
I think they're only audio recorded.
Yeah.
What?
I think they're only audio
Oh,
recorded.
that's right.
Yeah. Well, another resident actually brought that up. I think one thing I'd like to look at is, having Zoom access for them.
I believe it be in favor of it, but I mean, the recordings are already out there. Yeah,
No, that's definitely something I'd like to talk to the planning board about, Crystal, to see if we can make that happen. Just, accessibility and, more people having the access to it. So, and we have the equipment, so.
Well, it also makes it easier for the public to participate. I might miss a meeting and I do go back and look and see, it's. Thank you.
Yeah, I have a question for Bill on that. So, when I started in 2022, we left those decisions up to the individual boards and commissions. And I believe the Human Rights Council is the only one that does a live Zoom feed. Obviously, I've been committed to doing it here at our council meetings since day one, and will continue to. It was my understanding, one, Bill, I don't know if this is correct, that testimony in a planning or a zoning board meeting has to be in person. Is that, do you know what the law is around participation via Zoom? And secondly, this would be a question for the planning board to reconsider. It's not, I don't know that council can necessarily dictate planning board for its meetings that way. And just the last point I would make is I think that even though our Zoom meetings are available for viewing, the actual public record or the minutes. So you can watch the meeting, but the public record, the official legal public record is not the Zoom recording, it's the public minutes. So Bill, do you have any thoughts on those two questions?
The board, the individual boards would make the decision as to how they want meetings conducted. I know that boards did move away from Zoom after the public health restrictions went away, just because there was a lot of issues with objectors trying to object on Zoom and saying they weren't recognized, but it wound up in court. People had a problem with an approval afterwards, said they tried to object and couldn't, and then filed a challenge. saying that they couldn't, whether, and I don't know whether it was clear that some of the cases that my firm handled, it was clear that they didn't object, they were able to track that, so I think to avoid that scenario, a lot of boards did move away. I'd have to look at the land use law as to whether any speaker has to be in person. I have to follow up on.
Well, that'd be something that the planning board attorney or zoning board attorney could do as well, right?
I'm sure they would know what's out there.
Yeah, so, I see, Chairman Cool here in the room, so. This might be a conversation just to have with, the planning board attorney, Scott, just to verify, kind of the legal things.
And you brought up a good point about the testifying of experts and everything, even people, but even if we could have the ability to listen from, that would be a big improvement. And again, we already have the equipment, so that's, and again, we can't dictate it, but we can ask for it.
Yeah, it does take a little bit. I know a lot of folks have questions about what happened at the boards that they asked me about, and there's a delay, in getting the minutes that being made available, and so, yeah, there's gotta be something in between those two issues that to help in that regard.
Please.
Judy Gleason, 86 North Union Street. A couple things. One, I have asked about maintenance and maintaining the stormwater pipes and stuff in the city many, many, many times. And I was just sort of shocked and dismayed to learn tonight that the camera and the scoping of that system is being put over until the fall, when in favor of some cleaning up of the debris removal, which, as you said, been there for a decade. This guy, I was just surprised at that decision, because we've been talking about this and we've never been able to talk about maintenance because we don't have the scoping. Well, now we know we're not gonna still have the scoping, which is disturbing in many ways. Secondly, the Green Acres money, I don't know whether that's final, how the Green Acres money that we're gonna get, if we're definitely getting it, or what's the rules around that, or what's going on. But it seems as though how that affects the Clausen property is gonna be really important as we try to figure out ways to deal with possible affordable housing options. And I just have to say that the Clausen property was purchased by all of us. So this isn't just the city council, or this isn't just the mayor, this isn't just somebody on the council. We're all paying for that. There's a lot of interest in using it, if possible, as an option to consider for some affordable housing. And every time somebody says, well, but the Green Acres, we need to know exactly, and are we done with all of our position on that with the Green Acres people, or do we still have room to do something around what we say, or what we want, or what we talk about with them in terms of what land is available, which would be potentially buildable. So I would hope that that could be taken into consideration. Thank you.
Anyone have any comments?
Just,
I'm sorry, wait, if you could just wait a minute, I want to make sure that the council had any response to, that.
Just point out about the camera, I do think the mayor, I think that if we do not get the funding that, with the grant that we need, we're gonna introduce the ordinance so we can fund that, because I do think that's important. So hopefully that's not gonna hold us up.
Great, thank you.
And I'll just talk about the cost of property for a minute. We haven't accepted any Green Acres money yet, but we are toward the tail end of that. We've already been awarded money from the county. This is a conversation that was had and that we have worked toward, funding and open space. I'm personally not prepared to, until we look at all other potential locations and considerations for affordable housing. I think that the intent of that, of the former council and of the community was to preserve the open space at there, and that's what we've been working on for 3 years. And that was, I was a member of the community advisory team, and there is information, surveys that back that up. So, I'm not prepared to do anything other than to continue moving forward with the funding that we've already committed to and with the county money that, we just were awarded recently. So, that's what I have to say on that.
Thank you. Jeff Tittle, 33 Wilson Street. I didn't talk about another issue, but I'm gonna bring this up. Many people didn't fill out that survey because they thought it was very biased. Secondly, there was never an appraisal done. And at the time, it was, had been an area that was looked at for affordable housing. But what I will tell you this, you do go forward either way. When I mentioned before about 6 units, they can be fit on the inclusion in the existing footprints of the buildings, and you can keep the outside, except for probably the farmer's market, because that's a crappy building, not using a term that's really substandard. It would fit within the inclusion. Also, under the Green Acres rules, you're allowed to have diversion if it's 100% affordable. That's in the rules as well. I know because I was part of the committee that wrote them. So even if you go forward with Green Acres, you still have a piece of land. If you can sell off a piece to a private entity, you could also instead sell that piece or lease that piece or do something with it for 100% affordable. And I'll send you a picture of a very nice place up in Western Massachusetts where they built 6 units, including 3 rental, using existing farm structures. Anyway, what I really came up to say, and the other thing too, one of the biggest cost drivers that blocks affordable housing in New Jersey is cost of land. It's the largest problem that they have. So we have land, and we could try to get a nonprofit builder that way. What I wanted to just mention is about on the Hill, because of some things that were said. So under the law of how the laws have evolved from ECRA to ISRA and now to LSRP, the developer will be considered an innocent purchaser. So you cannot, so if for some reason after the property is sold, and turns out to be more contamination up there, a Vanadian is held harmless. There will be an HOA, that takes over in 2 years. And the concern I have, and believe me, I've had this argument for years, is that if you don't have a way of going after the original owner, and he leaves stuff on the property, or the LSRP somehow misses it, whether it's accidentally or not. In most cases where this has happened in the state, of course, the people start screaming and their HOA fees are going to go through the roof, and the town ends up bailing them out. So really, it's important to get it right the first time and to make sure that Merrick Wilson, who most people don't trust, does the right thing up there. Otherwise, we could be ended up with that headache down the road from the landfill or anything else that could be up there. But I also would suggest something else, which, I think the council should, I only saw the edges, we stayed within the rights of way. So we wouldn't be, on the property, but I think you should have a site visit to look at the property. Because you do have a flat area, but then it drops off the table. You should really see what it looks like as the land as it is, so you can get a better understanding of the plan. And my last point is, many towns allow Zoom or planning board meetings, but they say you can't comment. If you want to comment, come to the meeting. So that may be one way around that. Also, many towns, and I was part of that, have a cable advisory committee that actually gets equipment and has things live on cable. And in Ringwood, we used to say we didn't need a council, we didn't need a comedy club, we could just go on local taxes.
Child, on Belvedere Avenue. Actually, just to Jeff brought up, I think, a good point. Having a few of us are on the Cable Advisory Council. Dave Bird is as well, John Weber, I think it has been done in South Brunswick, in a bunch of places all over New Jersey. They've had Comcast or Optimum pay for equipment. We could get equipment for, that could be part of the budget. We already get, fees from them, to allow them to get their franchise. I don't know where that money goes, but it could go into a budget for broadcasting. We, don't have to only broadcast the cable. We can also broadcast the Zoom and other things. And So that should be something to consider, and I'll bring that up, at the next, meeting with, that group. I also wanted to, say I'm in full support of moving forward as quickly as we can on the stormwater, assessment. We need to have a baseline. We need to know what our capacity is, and, anything we can do to move forward quickly on that, it is something that I would like to see happen. I don't know about hiring a professional until we've already done an assessment, because professional, a staff member, an additional staff member costs a lot of money, in the future. Maybe we only need consultants, maybe we need consultants for a few years. I don't know, but, that's something to consider. And I don't think we would know until we, really have an understanding of where we're going. So, and finally, can I have some clarification on the clause, and like there's an exclusion zone and there's an inclusion zone. Mayor, is your proposal to make the entire Clawson property open space?
No, there's an exception area and there's the open space area. It's well delineated on the maps that have been on the webpage for years.
Okay.
We did change that last year to reduce the amount of open space, to allow the city a little bit more flexibility with part of the parcel just below the farm market and on the north side. So all those maps are, there's an entire page devoted to Holcomb Park, and we'll have all the maps with the exception areas and the open space.
Good, thank you for clarifying that, because in recent emails, it was not,
it's been on the website for years.
I know, but I thought that you might have changed your mind. So, the final thing I want to ask, say about that is, yes, a lot of people didn't complete the survey because they felt it was biased. So the people who did complete the survey would, like to see the city use that for some public good. If we're paying taxpayer money on it, it shouldn't just be sitting with empty houses. People were really excited about potential and the possibilities there. And I think you'll see, I think maybe the mood's changed a little bit, Mayor, that people might see affordable housing there as a public good and might rally behind that. I think you're looking at old data, maybe, if you think that it would, be best as not just open space all. Right, thank you.
I would just point out too, Sean, that when people filled out that survey, they thought they were getting more money for the open space than we actually got too. So obviously, you gotta weigh everything. So, yeah. Thank you.
Hi, Woodall, 45 Delavan. I was listening to what you were saying about the high school property, and that in its current state, something should be done because of runoff, because of the toxic waste, and because of other things have been dumped up there, as we've heard testimony from people who live there. And I'm just wondering if it poses a threat to our community. Is there any mechanism by way that City Hall can insist that the owner clean it, pay his taxes, and be responsible for the things that threaten our town just in its existing form? So if it's already kind of a toxic piece of property, isn't the owner responsible, especially to us, that it's going to affect, to have it be made responsible to do something? That's my question.
Bill, I'm gonna have to ask you to field that one.
We're in court with the owner now on a portion of the property to enforce property code violations. So that's it, but that costs to do. There's signs that we're to try to enforce. Hopefully, the court finds in our favor and city gets some money to do it. But there's been summonses and violations written on portions of that property for
Going back, I think, to
1938, 25 years, so the city, the answer to the city has taking every enforcement action you can up there, it's just. Dealing with the property or something.
If I could respond, it just seems that that makes it even less desirable as a location for the city to become involved with. Thank you.
Dave Berger, 5 Brunswick Avenue. Chief Andy, number one, the councilman, attorney, may appreciate your willingness to help get us through this very complicated process of, affordable housing, which is not your forte, as I understand it. And I bring this up again, and I ask council, to join together to say, maybe Dave Bird has an idea, all right? And that is to bring in a there's real special attorneys, and I think, Evan, you would agree with this, that have assisted municipalities throughout the state of New Jersey deal with their difficult affordable housing. All right, we're up against a point right now, along Main Line that it changed everything. Okay, and I think that to continue on without a specialist, okay, in the long run, I pay for it one way or the other. So to bring in an attorney that specializes in this, like other municipalities have, where they have certainly gained more time, which is one of the concerns we have right now. It's going to cost money. Everything costs money. All right, but again, and not any negative against you, but that's not your specialty. Okay, and I think it's something you really need to look at. And related to that, all right, is the Green Acres thing. I think we need to just say, let's wait. Give us all the time to make the decision of what we need to do. That little bit of money, all right, well, the 3 million we paid for it, that little bit we're going to get, it's not a big amount of money in the big picture. All right, let's keep all our options open. All right, and I'd ask council to get together on that and make it happen. Thank you.
A couple of things about that. We do in fact have an affordable housing attorney. I spent about 25 minutes on the phone with her this week talking about the situation. So we do have an attorney that we use for affordable housing. She's in on every single call I have with the judge and the court master. I do seek her advice, and we do have conversations regularly, and she is there to answer any questions that I have. Certainly, any questions that the council has, they can always forward to me, and I can get an answer and a determination. So at this point in this process, I have to rely on her expertise and her wisdom when I start to talk about how the city is shifting away potentially from what's something that's in our plan to potentially proposing other things. So I've had conversations with her, and we do have an expert. I would say that the Green Acres funding, almost 500. Well, it's 200 and I forget what the number is. It's 250,000. It's half the. I wouldn't. Well, I don't remember the number off the top of my head, but I would.
Like 350.
I know, but paying down the debt is important, right? I mean, we've worked hard in our budget to bring not only to pay down unused debt, but to lower our tax burden. I would argue that it's an important part. This council's already talked very publicly about the need to pay down the costs and the debt that was purchased to use that. We've already taken half of the money that was put aside for site planning and canceled that debt. We're looking to sell the market. We're looking to pay down the debt. So I think it's also important to not underplay the value of that property in terms of our debt relief. And so I would just note that as well.
Yeah, and again, I didn't underplay it. I just brought it up as a point because we got a lot going on in this city, and we want to protect our city.
Thank you. Anyone else in the room? Anyone online? Okay, I have a motion to close the public comment period, please.
So move.
Second. Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you, Councilman. And I would ask for a motion to adjourn at 9:30.
So moved.
You, second, all in favor, please say aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't what?